Hi there. We now present part 2 of the incredibly long Q&A that went on longer than we expected. Hope you enjoy it. Right, now, next up, Dolly Rocker 40 asked, why go for a narrowboat instead of a widebeam? And what books or blogs helped? So, yeah, for the first bit of the question, we did actually think about it, didn't we?
When I first had the idea of living on a boat, I was quite enamoured with the idea of getting a Dutch barge. And then we sort of... It was like, part of it was price.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was the realisation that there are so many narrow canals in this country. And we wouldn't be able to explore any of that if we had a wide-beam boat.
Yeah. I think it's especially because isn't there one particular choke point that basically separates
there's
the north from the south?
You can't get from the north to the south in a wide-beam.
Yeah.
Without getting transported or doing some...
Yeah, there's like one lock
sea journey or
that
something.
just will not let you through.
I don't know whether it's one lock.
Or,
there is one short stretch.
Yeah, okay, I may be overstating that slightly. It's very possible. But yeah, it was that just like... Because, I mean, I must admit, initially it was the talk of a wide beam that had me going, ooh,
Yeah, we sort of I calculated the area that you'd have inside of a wide beam, and it was sort of it's not that much smaller than our flat.
Yeah. and obviously on a narrowboat, that's not the case. It's a lot smaller, but honestly, part of this whole process was actually when I started thinking about the stuff that I had, because both Em and I are hoarders who are attempting to reform. We've spent a large proportion of the last couple of years gradually selling almost everything we have, and the freedom appealed. The idea that the entire network would be open to us, because I think if I was going to do this, then being able to go anywhere sounded a lot more appealing than, oh, we can go live on the Trent. And it's like, that. I'm sure that's lovely, but I didn't want to be on the Trent and not be able to go anywhere else or something like that. I really, that was what really, really sold me and made me think, yeah, I can have a go at just slimming down my stuff even more. And get my life so that it will fit on a narrowboat, because then we can go anywhere. That was a big selling point, really, and I think that was essentially what kind of nudged us away from Widebeam, because I think we've actually looked at, I don't know that it would actually be massively more expensive than the way that we're doing it, really.
Yeah. But yeah. We'll save the Widebeam for the future.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's kind of how
we've
been.
To Europe.
Yes, it's how we've been looking at it. We'll be on a narrowboat for a while, and then we'll get a wider boat of some kind, and we'll be like, what are we gonna do with all this space? Oh my god! So there's that to look forward to.
Fill it with clutter.
Exactly. More. Yes. The clutter will come back. It'll haunt us. So books and blogs that helped. A variety.
The Inland Boat Owner's Book by Graham Booth. That's like a fairly basic introduction to boatiness.
Yes.
It's not really good for building or planning.
Yes. Whereas
Narrowboat Planning, also by Graham Booth.
Yes, he gets around.
The Narrowboat Builder's Book, also by Graham Booth.
Yes.
This one is definitely the most useful. It goes into sort of quite some detail about the way people do fit-outs, but still not enough detail. I also I found this on Amazon. It's a self-published one by a guy called Mike Jordan. And it's got lots of really useful carpentry designs in. There's sort of cratchers and top boxes and all kinds of sort of seating things and what have you. And also we do sort of try and keep up with these very expensive magazines because
Yes.
they do have useful articles in now and then.
You know, there's been a lot of useful stuff, and because we've done a lot of research. You know, we've been trying to sort of get information wherever we can for the last couple of years. But I mean, those ones are definitely a
Yes.
good.
We've got a copy of the 12-volt Bible for boats as well.
Yes.
By
You look that one up. But yeah, I mean, are there any blogs that you can think of that you'd recommend? Or
the 12-volt Bible for boats is by Minor Brotherton and Ed Sherman. Sherman.
Okay.
Blogs. I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Okay. Is this another one that you're going to have to look up? This is...
Yeah, the New Zealand guy.
Okay.
It's something like Wairau. You can tell we're prepared here.
Very, very well prepared.
Wairau.
Wairau. Oh, okay.
Narrowboat Wairau.
Okay.
Waiouru.
Right.
Search for Narrowboat Wairau.
Wairau.
Yes, that's a Kiwi blog by a guy who ended up fitting out his own boat after a boat builder ripped him off. But he actually blogged in quite detail about all the fitting out that he was doing. I found that quite useful.
Yeah.
There are a few around. It's when people are doing their own fit outs, it's hard to know how much to trust in what they're doing.
Yes.
The sort of the best technique or a good technique. So do a lot of looking and research before you decide how to do something.
Yes, definitely. Now, moving on, Mark Evans asked, is it a cruiser stern, a semi-traditional stern, or a traditional stern? And what made you decide which to go for? Well, it's a semi-trad. That's what we've gone for. And it was kind of...
Well, I almost fell off the back of a trad when looking at one.
Yes, this played into it a little.
Yeah, I'm terrified of falling off the back of a trad because they sort of, there's about 3 foot for you to stand on. And you're actually supposed to steer in the hatch. You're supposed to stand in the hatch and steer from there with the doors shut behind you. But people don't. They stand right on the back and it looks really dangerous. You see them going over the aqueduct with the incredibly long name.
Oh, yes. The really worrying one.
And you just think, what are you doing? We definitely weren't going to get a trad. Cause,
yeah.
We'd both like to be on the back at the same time and, we'll knock each other off on a trad.
Not impossible.
A cruiser stern takes up a lot of space.
Yes.
And you get quite cold on the back of a cruiser stern because it's very open. It's nice to have a rail to sit on, but it is very open and a long way from the cabin.
Yeah.
Whereas a semi-trad, you can sort of stand inside a box that's big enough for both of you, with the door shut behind you. So it feels safe, and also it's much closer to the cabin. You can you can nip inside. It's much easier. And we figured also, if we get a dog in the future, a semi-trad would be a good option because that keeps the dog enclosed, or any other pet if you're a pet owner.
Yeah. So, the next question was from Calm Adam. Yes, it's all one word. How and when do you intend to get the boat painted? And they also mentioned that they don't think that primer will protect against the winter weather. Calm Adam, you are completely right. It won't. We are aware of this, and we're basically going to be painting it ourselves on any available day when it isn't raining, which, considering it's winter, might be a bit tricky, but it's the only way that we can do it.
Yeah, the boat builder suggested that we basically put a holding coat on, We get the undercoat on and we put a holding coat on until the weather's better,
Yeah.
just to protect it. But it is 2-part epoxy, basically. So it looks pretty sturdy.
Yeah, I mean, although we don't really want to take any chances.
No.
You know, I mean, as a small tangent, we have seen the boat. The boat has actually been painted now with this 2-part epoxy, and yeah. So I think the plan at the moment is we're going to try and get a coat of primer on top of that, just to fully protect it, and then go undercoat from there.
Yeah, whenever we can, basically.
Yeah. Because as we said on the last video, getting them professionally painted costs a lot of money, and we don't have that money. And if we had the setup where we knew someone with a barn that we could put it in for a month or so, then that would make life an awful lot easier. We don't, so we've got to just sort of cope with it as best we can. Now, Graphite Grey 1 asked, have you been told about filling your fuel tank during the winter? We kind of have, I think, haven't we?
I think this is about diesel bug.
Yes, I'm assuming.
You're supposed to keep your fuel tank full, especially during the winter, because if you don't, condensation can get into your tank, and there's something about the water and the air and the fuel which causes this horrible sort of growth to form called diesel bug, which will just clog up your engine, and you end up having to get your whole fuel tank filtered if you want to correct it.
Not good.
Yeah.
Not good.
Keep your fuel tank full.
Yes. Right, and finally, Chevy Imp, or Chevy Imp, whichever way we want to pronounce this. Do either of you have experience of large-scale practical projects under your belt? He also mentioned that he's seen lots of good boats compromised by poor fit-outs. Is he? I don't know. Is he attempting to suggest something by that? Well, I think you should answer this first.
I've renovated a house. I have lots of sort of DIY experience that isn't directly useful. Like, you know, plastering is not useful for boating. Both of our dads, Sax's dad, basically renovates houses for, well, it's kind of for a living, really.
Well, yes, well, a combination of living and pleasure.
Yeah. My dad's, he does electrics and plumbing and an awful lot of woodworking. So, but we are learning as we go along, and we are going to be very, very careful about consulting.
Oh God, yes.
On various aspects of sort of like boat safety scheme standards and stuff like that, making sure we get it all right.
At this point, I should probably, I, on the other hand, have pretty much no practical experience whatsoever. I'm hilariously unpractical when it comes to this kind of thing. You know, my dad is massively practical, and we are not very alike, but now we're having lots of conversations about sawing wood. Which is weird and fun, but yeah, I didn't want to let that stop me, and I think the fact that Em has actually had a fair amount of practical experience, and that we've got people that we can ask, it felt doable. It didn't feel like I was wandering into a field.
We're determined that this is going to be a good fit out.
Yes, or the best fit out that we can manage. Yeah,
we're not going to mess it up in the way that we have seen some second-hand boats.
Yes.
Messed up.
We've seen them.
Yeah, we've seen some messes.
Yeah.
We're going to get this right.
Absolutely. That is the plan. And that's all the questions that we've got. And I was sort of expecting this to be nice and short and brisk, and it's actually been longer than the previous Q&A. So
we spent too long talking about bow thrusters and toilets.
Yes. No. See, I told you not to mention the toilets, honestly. Good Lord. Right. Well, I hope this has been relatively informative, at least, in its slightly rambling manner. Thanks very much for watching. Once again, if you've got any other questions, fire them our way and we'll do our best to answer them. And we'll be along with another Narrowboat update relatively soon. So until then, bye bye.